Just a few hours ago, we learned that Daniel Holtzclaw will be sentenced to all 263 years behind bars for raping and assaulting women while on duty. Police thought that they had the suspect cornered, but instead they say he darted out, tearing through several people's yards. Just to give you an idea of how bad it is right now in Shawnee, I'm standing at the edge of the shoulder here on 177, but you can see everything beyond that point next to this feed store is a river.
Look at it, it's behind you.
It was over. What? It was over my head 2 seconds ago. Now it's behind me. They're lowering it down right here. And in fact, the judge tells me this is the longest jury deliberation he's seen in his entire career. We've seen several cars slipping and sliding, especially as they're going up these hills. We just got the probable cause affidavit a few hours ago. It also lets visitors come in and see exactly what the vets are doing. In fact, one of our own live trucks can't even fit underneath this bridge, and if you take a quick look, you can see that warning sign there for drivers. We have seen both sets of lawyers for the prosecution and defense walking in as jurors have had questions for the judge.
Distribution.
Did you know they were looking for you?
No.
Bobby Eldridge has been impersonating Elvis for fun for more than a decade since he's been retired, but Tuesday night he found himself singing Jailhouse Rock from behind bars.
I don't want to be a tiger. Tigers play too rough.
If you like Elvis, you and Bobby Eldridge will probably get along just fine.
If they're having a good time, that's what Elvis was about, having a good time.
He has his own suit and glasses to boot.
I got the hair in the closet, too.
Monday night, he decided to take his show on the road. After a little liquid courage,
I confess I had a little wine.
He hitched a cab from his apartment to the Route 66 Roadhouse for drinks, Elvis suit and all.
Everything was going great. The guys were taking pictures. Everybody was having a good time. And for some reason, all of a sudden, they said, you need to leave.
The bartender told police Bobby was saying weird things and at one point was touching himself inappropriately. So they decided to call the cops.
Well, while I was thinking about what I was going to do, a nice man in a blue uniform let me know what I was going to do.
Too drunk for detox, police had to take the king straight to the county jail.
The man was so combative and confrontational in spite of his Elvis outfit that we thought it was a good idea that he went to jail.
I told the police, you guys are so cheap, I ain't singing nothing.
Trading his blue suede shoes for an orange jumpsuit for the rest of the night.
Here we go again.
He says he couldn't leave jail, though, without one last number for the guards.
Everybody in the hotel block, they were dancing to the Jailhouse Rock.
Now Eldridge has been charged with public intoxication. He actually just got a new Elvis wig in the mail today while we were talking with him. He says he'll be wearing it out again soon, but he says next time he'll try not to get arrested. Detective Kim Davis says her case all started with one woman coming forward. From there, she had the difficult task of knocking on doors, finding other victims, before discovering she had a serial rapist on the police force. When you think of Holtzclaw, what comes to mind?
Now?
Yeah.
A smile on my face because he's going where he belongs.
With more than a decade investigating sex crimes, Kim Davis is a no-nonsense detective.
I guess I really don't have a filter.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm there to take care of business, and let's get it.
But 2 years ago, Kim Davis was assigned the biggest case of her career. It all started with a complaint of sexual assault by a police officer.
When I interviewed Janie, I knew something happened. I just didn't know who did it.
She says it became clear while investigating that Daniel Holtzclaw was a predator whose crimes were only getting bolder.
I have no doubt he would not have stopped if Janie wouldn't have had the courage to come forward.
As she interrogated Holtzclaw, she says his demeanor stood out to her.
That's the most stoic person I've ever seen, and he remained that way in court until he found out he was found guilty on some things.
She says Holtzclaw's attacks weren't about sex, but exercising total control.
He made them feel like they were nothing, and that turns my stomach.
Davis was the prosecution's lead witness against Holtzclaw, taking the stand almost every day of the 6-week trial. She says he's shown no remorse even after being found guilty.
His tears were tears for himself. I do not think he thinks he did anything wrong.
As for having to investigate a fellow officer,
a lot of people ask me, well, he was one of your own. He was, police officer, and no, he wasn't.
She says if there was one silver lining in the case, it was showing other women that someone believes in them.
They don't think anybody cares about them, and they're wrong.
Women she now considers her friends.
They're really wonderful ladies, and, I hope they have happy, successful lives.
Davis says to this day she believes there are still other victims of Holtzclaw out there, and says in fact there were 2 other women who came forward but later decided not to speak. Tom George, Fox 25 News.
Well, guys, I tried it, and it's really something you have to experience for yourself. The only way I can describe it is just losing all track of time and just feeling weightless. It's also becoming popular among veterans, especially those with PTSD. I talked with one veteran who's only done it twice but says he's already seeing results.
You know, so it's tough. It's like you can't ever shut your brain off.
Sometimes our minds can wander.
Was deployed and fought in Iraq in 2003.
To memories we can't forget.
Turned into where you're getting attacked out of the crowd.
For Justin Clark, they were memories that changed him when he came home.
Before the war, I was always, very outgoing, fun-loving, and after the war, I was more drawn in, distant.
Feelings Clark tried hard to shut out.
I was drinking a lot to try to, quiet it all.
Clark went to psychiatrists and other therapy, all to try and help with his PTSD. He says it was time out on the water with family that began to help.
I'd get out and fish and, and experience some healing there, because I could really get out and relax and let go and I think that's where the turnaround started for me.
But between work and family, every day can't be a fishing day. Instead, Clark has found a new way to relax.
I work downtown, so it's easy for me to run up here on a lunch hour and get a float in.
He's talking about floating. At Float OKC in Edmond, they use tanks to make people feel weightless and relax. It's a form of sensory deprivation and the first of its kind in Oklahoma.
There's 900 pounds of Epsom salt dissolved into 200 gallons of water, and that just makes the water so dense that anyone can float on the surface effortlessly, just like a cork.
After showering and getting ready, the lights go out, tank is shut, and the float begins. Sitting in silence at least an hour at a time. It's only Clark's second float. He says it's something you have to try yourself to understand.
It's hard to explain. I mean, it's almost like dreamlike states. You might see some vivid colors while you're in there in the pitch black dark, but it was extremely relaxing.
Although some might think an enclosed space would trigger PTSD, Float's owners, who are ex-military themselves, say it's done the opposite.
The primary thing is just the peace and quiet, and the relaxing, peaceful experience helps them quiet their mind and really process some of the things they may be working through.
And while it's not an answer to life's problems,
it's more than a Band-Aid. I think after repetitive sessions, can certainly help you kind of keep a steady, even keel.
it is a nice escape.
I still have my moments where I struggle, but I've learned how to live with it.
The owner tells me since they started Float OKC back in November, word of mouth has spread quickly. He says especially on weekends, those slots are filling up. And again, it's not just for military. They say they've gotten all kinds of people coming in. Now, as for Clark, the veteran you saw in the story, he says he'll definitely be floating on a regular basis. In the studio, Tom George, Fox 25 News.